conversation is about mental health in high schools and the decline or rise in the amount of mental health cases, I guess.
Yeah, so it's kind of like UVA is kind of interested in how students are, their social and emotional needs aren't always met, and kind of goes in with how we don't get to pick our classes, but a lot of the times, like, we're taught certain things, and we use the knowledge. They don't necessarily invest time really in our lives outside of school, and how, like, if somebody's experiencing a hard time when it comes to, like, so let's say you play sports after school. I know, like, a lot of you play sports who have homework after sports or a game. You come home, you're tired, and you're like, I don't really want to do this work, and you have a test tomorrow, but you have to study and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's situations like that, and then also on another side, on the extreme, there's kids who deal with hunger and they don't get enough food, and they're tired the next day and they can't really manage, or their family has health issues and they have to do they're responsible there, but they have to come into school the next day and have to do a whole another 7 hours of working. There's a lot of conflict, and the school doesn't necessarily always recognize that. Like, a lot of the times we see students who struggle, they're put in certain classes and they're just pushed through almost a survival of the fittest kind of thing, because they're working so hard and they might not get the food or nourishment they need to really do well in school when it comes to test scores, or they might just not be able to cope with the workload if you're so much outside of school is making it difficult for them.
Did you put a 2 after my name?
I did, I believe.
Because I didn't get anything.
Check.
Why don't you just log into yours?
Sure.
Connie, do you want me to start asking questions? Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started. Sorry. So, okay, I guess our first question was pretty broad, and it's like, do you feel like high school or grade school has affected your mental health in any way? Like, really broad topic there.
Are you pitting those two against one another, or are you just saying all the way
Any
up?
school, just all the way up.
Okay.
And it has to do with, like, anxiety, stresses. It doesn't have to be severe as depression, but yeah.
If at all it's affected you.
I think it's affected, like, almost everyone. Like, if you look how you were at the beginning of kindergarten even, or 6th grade, it's like everyone's a completely different person than they were from then. Like, people that I know that went to elementary school with me are not the same people they were. Like, a few of them are in jail, like, because they couldn't, like, cope with anything, and then a lot of them dropped out. I think there's only, like, 10 kids left in my elementary school that have actually made it to, like, the end of high school.
Wow.
And that's sad, out of the class of 20 kids that was in my elementary school with me.
No, something similar happened. Like, I know in my freshman year, at least 5 kids had severe mental breakdowns and they dropped out of school.
During freshman year?
Freshman year, yeah.
Do you know what in particular just got to them? Like, what was the change? What was the trigger?
For a lot of them, it was the pressure. Because I mean, freshman year, it was a really incredibly competitive. It was an incredibly competitive school to be in.
Oh.
I mean, it was a general public school, but still, like, a lot of large classes, survival of the fittest is a fitting term. It's more like a straight up Hunger Games of GPA. I'm not kidding, like, people
I
were
like
vicious.
that.
People were vicious,
Yeah.
and a lot of people just cracked under that pressure. And like, I know one kid didn't last the first month of high school.
Did you guys feel like that at all freshman year?
I
That's-
kind of did, because I went from being one of the most, like, advanced students in my middle school to being, like, completely outnumbered. Like the jump from going from 300 kids to 700 was just too much.
I can't.
And, like, that was like the last year I feel like I had like control over what I was doing, like, and as like it got higher, I just got more pessimistic and I was just done.
Eli?
I feel like it helped me until high school, because you were saying grade school, so you mean like kindergarten all the way up. Yeah, like I think that routine and just the idea of working has helped me, because if you think about if you didn't have school, then like, and even if you were still doing things, like it would most likely be more sporadic, and then you wouldn't really know how to do things with a good routine and like good motivation, because if I were just doing like whatever and I just started living life like people do when they get out of college, like I wouldn't know what to do, I wouldn't know how to like prioritize anything. And so I think it's really like built up a really good foundation.
And you handled it well.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even like getting to high school, like I feel like the reason I can still like do things in high school is because I learned how to do them before. Like I know high school is basically how everybody else is saying it is, but like I think the reason we're ready is because of school.
I would argue that depends on the person, because
Yeah, I
like,
think you've handled it better than most.
yeah, some people like even if like don't do well in grade school. I know my brother, he's homeschooled now, but he went to public school for a little bit. He's very sheltered, and like a lot of kids there like are exposed to a lot, especially in the area where they live in Florida. So they would be talking about a lot of things that he wasn't aware of as like first graders. So then we put him, I don't know how many people are aware of Montessori schools, but those are like really awesome alternatives, but even there he like wasn't good. Like not he wasn't good, but he didn't like find his place or fit in there. It was
Right.
hard for him as a 7-year-old, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Like, I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but like it's crazy that like an institution can make someone feel like that who's 7. And like he would come home saying, I have no friends. I'm like, as a little kid, like that's so sad. And so I think like it really depends on like what you're like, you know, and whether like how you're raised also like affects it. But it's just like so many factors, and I think school isn't for everyone. I think like there's different alternatives that help, but it's just not always going to be the right option.
I think everybody handles stress differently. So handling school is just one of the big stressors of who we are as people nowadays. So I think that everybody handles stress differently, and that's why we're talking about mental health now. It's because it's affected people, it's affected more people worse than it's affected some others, and it's like hurt people more than it's helped people in a lot of cases. But yeah, it's person to person, and that's why this is such a good topic to think about, is just to kind of reflect on your high school years and who you were before and who you are now. Kind of just all of the above.
Alrighty, second question. Which aspects of high schools have affected your social and emotional feelings the most, whether it be homework, social, personal, or activities?
So do you think like the stress of having so much homework has hurt you the most, or the fact that you have to keep up with your social like things, has that hurt like the batteries or anything? Like keeping up with everything outside of school, is that the hardest, or is it because of school that you can't do all these things and be happy? Like, what are you thinking?
I think that something that I actually noticed like really recently about myself personally is that school has kind of, and like trying to balance everything in my life has kind of made it impossible for me to do the things that I really love doing. You know, like I used to draw a lot more and like paint a lot more, but I haven't done that in months because of just how much school and like sports and everything and like family time and social life and everything. You know, it's like it is important to leave time for yourself. And I don't think that we really leave room for that as much as we need to.
That's gonna be important for you guys in college too.
I feel like actually a lot of the stuff in high school, like me trying to play sports or like join clubs, I wanted it to be like a stress relief, and it was like just as or more competitive than like my classrooms. Like it's just like you have to come to practice every day and work your hardest, and like you need to win, like things like that. And it's just like I came here to release, you know, like I didn't want to have this environment all the time. And different sports change or different clubs, but I've definitely experienced things that are more stressful than like the academics of it, and outside of the classroom, which is just like,
Yeah.
what?
I also feel like extracurricular stuff that like I started doing because I really enjoyed it has transformed into like, in part doing it to get into school. And then I realized like, am I signing up for this because I really like it, or am I signing up for it because I think it'll be impressive? Like I know that it's what I like to do, but it's also like maybe one of the, it's not the only incentive anymore. It isn't just for pleasure, it's also like to get into schools and stuff like that.
And that can rob you of some of your intrinsic joy of it, you know, just
Yeah.
like, I think it sounds like that
Yeah,
happened to you.
it's like
and
you don't enjoy it anymore. It's
Right.
just because it's like, which,
Right.
yeah, it kind of sucks, but.
I guess for me, like last year, especially in junior year, yeah, sorry, juniors. Like the homework and the extracurriculars were all building up, and it was just becoming like so much, and I was sacrificing like personal time and social time with my friends, which would have been like good stress reliever just to get all that work in and to continue like keeping up like appearances with like the extracurricular activities and stuff. And it was just like, and yeah, it became like a chore. It was no longer fun. And then all of a sudden, like, I was just like, I'm so unhappy right now. I haven't like honestly felt happiness like in weeks. And I just like quit for a week and just didn't go to any extracurriculars. Did like bare minimum on the homework. Felt pretty good.
For a week?
For a week, just like to like recalibrate.
Yeah, there's like a triangle, and at the top it's sleep, and then it's friends, and then it's school. It's like you can only pick two.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
You can't have all of the above.
No, it's extracurriculars, school, and then that top one is sleep, friends, and anything else that you find enjoyable.
Well, then it's pick one.
Yeah.
For those times that you guys have felt like overstressed or anxious, or even gotten to the point where you're depressed because you haven't had the break, have you ever felt like teachers can help? Have you ever like seeked out help from teachers?
I think it depends on the teacher. I mean, I have a lot of teachers who, like Ms. Lawrence, are, you know, taking it a little easier on us at the end of the year and stuff when we have exams and stuff like that. And I have other teachers who decided to teach us the hardest subject all year right now. And so it's like, you know, I mean, it really depends on the teacher you get.
Do you guys feel like you can depend on your teachers? I think this is a question in the anti-bully survey. Like, do you trust?
Do you
your
trust
teachers?
someone in
I
your school?
think it just depends on like how close people are with teachers. Like some people have closer bonds, and so it's like a more personal like relationship to where you like feel comfortable. But like a lot of people don't really get that because they just come to school and like learn, which is totally fine. But like I think, I don't know. I mean, I myself, like if I'm not close to a teacher, I'm not gonna go like spill my deepest darkest secrets and like tell them how I'm feeling and like ask for their help, you know. And I don't know. I've been good about like kind of having personal bonds, but like I don't know, like some of my friends like don't know their teachers at all. So I think it just kind of depends on like how close you are and like how comfortable you are with teachers.
But there definitely have been teachers where like they kind of shut you down in that sort of sense, you know, you gotta ask them questions and they like treat you like you should know this or like, you know, and so it's.
Like some of my teachers,
hard.
I know nothing about like what they do after school. And like even if you like try to talk to them about it, it's like focus on your work. But like
Yeah.
Miss Lawrence's like stories and like that kind of stuff like
We know all
makes us
about
like
her
closer
husband.
to her. But like some teachers, you just like know them like solely for the purpose of like getting through your class.
I've had the privilege of like having a close relationship with my history teacher at Albemarle when I was there. He's now the vice principal at Yale, Mr. Allen. And we're like really, really close, and he like we talk about like personal stuff. And last year I like went through like this really hard time where like my health was really bad, and then I was like stressed, and then him and his wife like took me out one weekend, and they're like, okay, let's just go and like hang out and like try to get you like balanced out. And so I've had like the privilege of like having a close relationship with the teacher in that aspect. and it was like really helpful.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Fraser's like my best friend. And everybody hates me, but he's like one of my favorite people on the planet. Like he's just so chill, and we have a lot of the same like political views, and we play volleyball together, and we're just like best friends. But that's kind of weird to have like a teacher's your best friend, but it's really just it's a good place to go when you want to like just be not in a good mood and not have to like be nice to everybody all the time, and you can just say like. I can't say anything bad on the camera, but I mean, like you can just kind of let go. So I think if everybody could find like a teacher.
And it's also helpful because like when it comes like when it involves school, like talking to my parents, they don't understand. Like they'll see like a C like somewhere like hidden in like my like transcripts and like, oh my god, like it's the end of the world, and I'm like, I didn't even finish that test. But it's just like they don't understand like what happens at school. I don't even think they could tell you like any of the classes I'm in. And so like I think it's helpful to have someone that's like in the same environment and kind of like knows what's going on, and so like they can help you navigate that better versus like even like a counselor, like they don't really know what happens in like the classroom day to day or like how things work or like how things are graded, and so like I think it is helpful to have a teacher to go to, you know?
I get what you're saying on that, but I also think that if teachers kind of, like personally, and I know a lot of people have experienced this, just like Eliason takes teaching like a different way, you know?
Yeah.
He teaches you in a different perspective than every other teacher in the school, which really like for me, that helped my mental health. Because I could go to that class and it was like a break in the day. But I was still learning, like we were still doing stuff, but it was so different than this structured schedule that every other teacher had. And I felt like having that every day for the whole year like was so helpful in just keeping me balanced. And it's like, I know maybe
You knew you were gonna laugh in there.
yeah, and like that's not just one-on-one personal relationship with my teacher, but more so he had like a relationship with our class that was very unique, and for every class it's unique with him. And I felt like that's really good to have in a school, you know, for just more teachers like that.
I think it's really important for teachers to be like understanding of their students, because I think a lot of times teachers can get really caught up in the fact that like you're supposed to have deadlines and you're supposed to be regimented and you're supposed to be learning how to exist in an academic environment, and they almost like use that as an excuse to treat you like you don't have a personal like heart in school. Whereas like sometimes you just have a really bad night and you're not able to do your homework, and why should that mean that you get a bad grade, you know? Like there's so many, like students are human. We can't treat them like they're like robots who always meet deadlines and always, you know, like teachers should afford mistakes. And I think it can be an issue when teachers are like really focused on like just the academics of it.
Yeah. Also, when you think about it, it's like crazy. Like the amount of time you spend with your teacher, like from like 2 or 3 months, like in that span, is like more time than you spend with your parents sometimes. And like you don't even know them.
My take on that sort of evolved naturally. I never thought like, well, how am I gonna handle when they come to me and say this? But I find that with a lot of you guys, I do kind of try to start out sort of strict, but then as I come to know you and know, you know, like this is a very conscientious student. This is somebody who's brought it now for 4 months or 5 months. And so once I get to know you, I feel like I try, if you come to me and say, oh my gosh, I had the worst night last, you know.
Right, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
because
it makes
I
sense
just,
to never forget.
I sort of know who's playing, you know, who's trying to, anyway, I hope that I'm reasonable about
Last
things.
year, Schaefer he came in class one day and he was like all empathetic. He's like, guys, I know you guys have so much work. Like going to school is like a full-time job times 3. Like you're in school for 7 hours and you have 6 hours of homework and then you go to bed and then you do it all again. Like you work more than I do. And he's like, so we're gonna tone it down. And then the next day he comes in with like 3 essays to write, and he just sat there and we're like, oh. So I think they want to like make it easier for us, but they just can't. I don't know, because I mean they have guidelines to meet, and I think that's part of the problem.
Connie, were you trying to get more at the idea, like, if a student is drowning, do you feel like the teachers will help you if you, were you asking more of an emotional, like, when you're in trouble, do you feel like there's access to help?
I mean, sort of, you really just touched on it, the humanitarian approach of teachers and how school could be more relaxed when it comes to how we can just all be people and know that each of us has our own problems outside of school, and sometimes we don't feel good, and that affects how, like, the whole, like, let's say you don't feel good a certain day, and the way you teach us is different than the other day, and we're just not having a good day ourselves, and how the whole environment is like, it affects how we learn that one day, and it affects our day as the day goes on.
Yeah.
So I think it's just really getting a touch on how, like, the schools and specific education programs can be really more, like, focused on us being humans. Like, how Google, like, they treat their workers like the royalty, and they give them paid leave and stuff like that. Why can't school be like that, where they're more accepting to how we all live?
Lives, yeah.
I feel like some teachers, not all of them, they expect the same work from every student. They don't realize that every student is different. And there's, like, in my experience at least, there's some teachers where one night I had to go to the hospital because I had this terrible stomach ache, and I had an essay that I had to write, and I couldn't get it done because I was in the hospital, and I got a 0 and they wouldn't let me make it up because that apparently wasn't a good enough excuse to not do my homework.
I guess
You don't have to say who that was.
I guess to that, like, since we kind of know what the goal is, how would you all sort of believe to change it? How could we get to that point where school is a place where we can enjoy the day and not have to be stressed or anxious, and know that teachers are there for us? Like, what would you
Change.
Yeah, how would you change that?
Well, I think what Chloe was saying is like very true, you know, like having a teacher who changes kind of the way that they teach, it's like a breath of fresh air in the day. And, you know, if you have teachers who do that and like kind of make the curriculum less strict so people focus less on guidelines and stuff like that, then, you know, everyone can kind of have a more free environment to learn in a way that is enjoyable.
We're almost done. I think like teachers really need to change their views about like what school should bring a student, like what school is for the students, because I think a lot of teachers feel like it's all about academics and it's all about like meeting the grades and meeting the deadlines and stuff like that, whereas really school should be about learning. So whatever helps the student learn best and like whatever will help the student learn should be what they teach, you know? Like I think they're so obsessed with like everyone meeting the same standards that they aren't able to see like maybe I will learn the subject better if I have an extra day and that'll help me learn it, and that is what's right. It's not like if it's gonna inhibit my learning to have to rush it and turn it in early, why is that the better option? Why is that the solution?
I think some teachers feel that they're more stressed for time too because the standardized tests, AP tests, they have to get all of the subject learned in a certain amount of time. Like they can't extend the deadlines of when they can teach because there's a set date for every test that has to be taken.
But if you have to teach them all this stuff, they're not really learning it, then like.
Also, I think there should be like an elimination of how much college plays a role in what we do in high school. And that we just run on the wheel for college, and in the end, we just don't get the treat. So, I mean, we work around the clock for an elusive dream that oftentimes doesn't really prove to be as nice as we planned it out in our heads to be. I mean, I feel like I do almost everything for college, and just like it sort of just like suffocates any real creativity I have in my life.
And I can tell you, it didn't used to be like that.
No, it didn't.
We used to be pretty content with Bs, and if you got Bs, you were gonna go to good school and everything. When you finished, you were gonna get a job. There just wasn't this sense of,
Yeah.
But now it's like you get to be a sin with the world.
I know,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
that?
like my mom, she graduated from Albemarle, went to UVA, and she didn't have straight A's. But now it's like, if you don't have like a perfect GPA because of how competitive it is now to get into UVA and like really big schools like that, then it's like, if you have certain grades and you can't get in.
That's funny. My grandma, she probably went to college in like 1940, and she went to Cornell. She had all these. And then my mom was a high school dropout, and she had like B's and F's, and you know, my mom's still fine. And like, my grandma tells me that like I have to have all A's if I'm ever gonna like survive in the world, and then my mom's just like, it doesn't matter. What are you doing? Like, who cares? Like, go have fun. You can have like a C, I don't care. So it's like the different decades or like the different eras are just so funny, because like it's really competitive, and then it's like the hippie age where it's like, yeah man, do what you want, like you're super cool and chill. And then there's like today, it's like we birth children to go to college to get a job. And it's like, woo!
I don't know if it was more competitive in your grandmother's age though. Maybe it was more competitive
mean,
for
for
her as a
girls.
woman,
Yeah,
as a woman.
women.
Yeah, that's
But I don't know if it was
I don't
in
know.
general more competitive.
Might have been probably just for women, but
Because it was hard.
Today you need to be the leader of at least 3 things, be the captain of whatever sports team. It can be
This
something
many
weird
clubs and
too.
this many extracurriculars.
Oh, and then you have to have all A's, have taken every possible AP class in the school, and we're still not going to accept you.
yeah, like you're still not going to Harvard.
I didn't work hard in high school.